Hey guys, welcome to Life Off the Mat. I'm Katie Williamson.
Kevin Roland.
Anthony Polanco.
And Katie and Roland.
Yeah.
Here we go.
You can find me on Instagram at legit Katie Williamson and online www.katiewilliamsoncoaching.com. And you can find Kevin Roland on Instagram
At KWRCCO or my website, www.kwrcco.com.
You can find me at AntPStyle on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just look me up, Anthony Polanco, or AnthonyPolanco.com. Check it out. We've got a ton of stuff on there for you.
That's good because I feel like we're a little song.
I don't feel that way. I got it all out.
Happy times.
That's right.
Okay, good. It's recording.
Open more so we can see what's going on.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, should we start again?
Yeah, start again like nothing ever happened.
Check.
Oh, hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Life Off the Mat.
Way off the mat.
Way off the mat
off the
because
mat
it's
now.
been days that feel like months already.
Mm-hmm. Quarantine.
Whew.
Quarantine life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Quarantine life
Yeah.
that we are together in because we're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
That's right.
This is very taboo of us.
Shh, don't tell
Uh,
anyone. Don't worry, we have hand sanitizer.
That's right. We only have
We're all
till
good.
midnight.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they're not letting us back in the booth. So.
Right.
It seemed an appropriate sacrifice, because tomorrow, who knows, like what the state of things, if this building will even be open. So might be our last chance to get together again for this,
Yeah, and the other thing too is that as the three of us have talked about what's important to us and really the heart behind why we even wanted to do a podcast together and why we joined forces to sit down and record our conversations. A big part of it was just putting out positivity and sharing what we're learning and what we're going through, and also having these life lessons that each of us have learned, and looking at how can we share that and help encourage other people. And I feel like right now there's so much uncertainty today, and to be honest, for me it's definitely felt good to get out of the bubble and just see you guys and get to sit down and kind of talk about life. Like we said, definitely off the mat.
Yeah, right, for sure.
So
yeah, I agree.
I'm glad we're here.
Like, you guys are, principled people. You live by your principles, and that's why I admire you both so much. And I feel like I do the same. And I put out a few videos as this coronavirus started coming out. The news about it started coming out, and the first video I was very stay positive, stay optimistic, this thing will blow over. The second video is like, hey, you still got to stay positive, don't overreact, don't underreact, but this thing might take a while. And it's an opportunity for me to put the principles that I live by and preach into practice, and so even though it's hard, it's a good opportunity to kind of just paddle the boat that I've been building, and so
For sure.
So it's been an interesting experience for that reason.
Yeah, and that's something I've been thinking about a lot too, because for myself, I've had periods in my life where I've really struggled with anxiety and depression, and allowing my mind to just spin out of control. And one of the big ways that I've dealt with that is to exercise. And as we talked about, we're not training. The gyms are closing, and I've definitely had to keep myself in check these past few days of looking at, okay, my mind's starting to spin. How can I separate that? And just like you said, Anthony, get back to the principles. Like, I need to practice what I preach now. And, to be honest, even just last night, I was going through some of the writing that I've done over the past few months, and I'm like, dang, I wrote this for myself because I need that reminder right now. So, yeah, I mean, what are some of your guys' ways that you're handling the stress and overactive mind and dealing with all this uncertainty?
Right. My default has always been work, typical workaholic. So
which is not always a good thing. And that's what I miss the most about not being able to turn it off. So I waking up at 2 a.m., got the news on, watching, just feeding information into my head. And 2 weeks ago, I was like, it's not any worse than the flu. It's going to be okay. And then about a week and a half ago, started to look even deeper into it. And then the implications in workplaces, because I'm involved in that, what may happen, the security aspect of it. But I think you're right. It gives you a chance, both of you have kind of touched on it, to apply the principles that you live by. And it's always easier to live by those principles when things are going well.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Or to just talk about them.
Yeah. You know?
For sure.
But
I'm just going to tell you how to live your life.
Yeah.
Don't look at mine.
Yeah. I'm like the house painter, and his house needs painted all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not funny.
But yeah, and I think you're seeing that opportunity, Anthony, that you're going to be able to you could not have constructed any other scenario to pull yourself up out of everything and then reapply it, your principles, back on yourself.
Exactly.
And I think we're all realizing that. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It's just a great opportunity, for it. So many people are going to be crippled by it for a long time, and the quicker that you can adapt your circumstance and just get back to moving. I liken it to jiu-jitsu. In the video I posted the other day, I talked about it. Like, as soon in the beginning when you start training, you're likely to be paralyzed by opposition. Like, as soon as your guard gets passed, you're likely to get stuck in side control for a while. Or if you get mounted, you're likely to get yourself into a really bad mount before you start to think about, what do I do to escape? And the better you get, the quicker you are to react and adapt to your situation, so that you don't let your guard down. You don't let your guard get passed. Like, it's not one step to your guard getting passed, it's 4 steps to your guard getting passed, because you're already reacting to opposition as it starts. And so I think some people who aren't used to uncertainty are going to have a hard time getting back on their feet very quickly. And people who are used to uncertainty, they're going to be able to roll with the punches, Being self-employed, I'm used to uncertainty. It happens to me all the time. So it took me a few days or a week to realize that this was going to be a larger, longer play than I'm used to,
Right. Well, and I'm glad that you brought that up, Anthony, because I was actually just sharing this story with someone the other day, when this was actually maybe, I don't know how long ago. Let's see, I've been at Elite for about a year, so maybe a little over a year ago at the last gym I was training at, the coach walked by one day, we were rolling, whatever, and the coach walked by and just real nonchalantly, quietly was like, "Katie, stop giving up." And I was like, "What? I'm not giving up," But then I realized the person that I was going against, not just this person in particular, but when I was rolling, my guard would get past maybe 3/4 of the way. And rather than fighting back, I would just let them pass and then work from that bad position. And as soon as he said that, it was like something just clicked inside of me. And I was like, okay, you're right. Like, just because it's 3/4 of the way past, like, all is not lost. How about I work to regain my position, get creative, rather than just giving up and fighting from a worse spot. And that once I realized that on the mat, I really started seeing that off the mat too, where there were a lot of situations in my life where I was getting 3/4 of the way past someone, and I would just give up and be like, okay, yeah, you're right, you win, and then fight from that bad position, rather than getting creative and resourceful and looking at, okay, how can I turn this into a situation that is advantageous for me instead of putting me behind? And, I think looking for ways that we can get into that mindset, especially in the midst of uncertainty, is definitely one of the ways to get our power back and look at, what can I do right now to keep pushing forward?
Definitely.
Yeah, and I'm a I'm a big schedule guy. I create my schedule, and then I don't usually think about things. I know when I'm going to jiu-jitsu. I know when I'm going to work. I know when everything I'm doing is on a schedule. And so that, with all this, has been turned upside down. So my structure that I live by, and it kind of goes back to what you guys are saying too. Sometimes you accept once you get 3/4 of the way past in one way or another in life, you go ahead and fall back on your back, and then you start working twice as hard just to get back to the 3/4 pass, and then you can do something.
Right.
But I think that's one of the big parallels in jiu-jitsu. You know, it teaches you that. And then at times, I mean, there was a period where I couldn't get out from underneath a bigger person, you know. And then after struggling with that, I just started to put myself in that position.
Right.
I just put myself in there every time. Come on, get the big guy, you know, get in that position. We don't do that in life very often.
Right.
You know, we avoid that totally to practice to get better at something. And I think that's what jiu-jitsu does for us in that regard. It does for me, definitely.
Yeah.
Teaches me that, you know, it's problem solving at its finest.
Yeah. It's easy to draw the parallels after the fact, retrospectively, but I do believe that it helps you, even though you're problem solving in jiu-jitsu, it's teaching your brain how to figure that formula in your life, you know.
For sure. So I have a question for both of you, because this is something that I've really been thinking about the last few days.
Okay.
How do you stay grounded, and what is kind of the anchor in your life to help you stay grounded in times of uncertainty? So whether that's a practice or a belief system, combination, something else. What's that anchor for you to stay grounded in times of uncertainty?
I would say that my belief has really shown to help me in this time and in times of uncertainty. That the belief that, you know, I'm a witness to my experience, and like I'm only like a semi-director, and God is the majority of the direction of my life, and I'm mostly watching a movie, and I have some say, but for the most part the movie is unfolding before me, and I just kind of decide what to look at. And so I expect uncertainty. I expect uncertain times in the play, in the movie of my life, the drama. There's going to be highs and lows, happy times and sad times, prosperity and, you know, really hard times, right? So when things like this happen, I just take a note of the roller coaster of life that I'm on, and realize that, you know, there are good times and bad times. And I knew this was coming because we've been in such a time of abundance for so long that I knew this was coming. I might not have prepared as well as I would have liked, but I kind of was emotionally prepared for a recession in my life, whatever that looked like, you know. And so I think in this time I've been able to deal with it, knowing that there are highs and lows in life, and I'm not directing, so it's not my responsibility to decide, you know, whether, like, I read an Alan Watts quote. It was like, if we're afraid, we're afraid. You know, if we die, we die. If we live, we live. It's not ours to decide, whatever the quote is, you know, basically, like, what difference does it make? This life that we get to live, we're not deciding it. We didn't choose it. It's just happening. And so, like, whether it's a sad movie or a happy movie, we just have to appreciate that we're watching a movie, you know, at all, rather than just not existing, you know. So I think my, like, that kind of like stoic philosophy is what helps me, like, get through hard times, you know, just realizing, hey, hard times are still good. Like, it's better than nothing, you know.
Yeah. It too shall pass.
This too shall pass. Yeah.
Yeah. That I believe is why I rely on structure in my life so much. I rely on predictability in as many things as I can. But realizing, and as I said, I'm a spiritual person, so I have faith, and I'll kind of dive even further down into that. Sometimes I feel bad that when things are going great, I'm not as dependent on my faith.
Right.
And I've learned over the years I try to be more so, but trying times always bring me back to that center. You know, I've always kind of believed that in life, your spirituality, God, whomever you believe in, has a way of pushing you back up onto the road. You can go four-wheel driving if you want to, and he's going to try to get you back up on there several times. And if you want to go that way, he'll let you go that way for a while. But I think if you listen to what's happening internally, your spiritual, your emotional compass that's in you, you're going to pull back onto that road. You're going to get back in line. And, you know, I mean, through prayer and meditation and those types of things are very helpful for me.
Yeah.
Although I'm very open, and I guess open, but I'm interactive with people a lot in my job. I'm a very to myself person away from that. You know, I'm an extrovert in my job, an introvert the rest of my life.
Right.
Or an extreme introvert. So, you know, I may get off work and go home and not have 10 words, say 10 words. You know, that just may be my evening. You know, so I have to, under certain circumstances, that can be very bad for somebody. I've been fortunate. Most of my life I've been pretty positive. I've seen the glass half full. But I can empathize with other people that go through those struggles because, man, it can take you down a path and down a rabbit hole that is very, very hard to get out of.
Definitely.
And, you know, I look at you two and think, listening to you talk, you have wisdom of people much older than you. You know what I mean? You just are wise with that. And that's what I appreciate about you guys, and probably what attracted me to wanting to kind of spend more time with you, and especially in this format, because I think what we've all been through can help other people, because learning that, you know, there's no magic prescription for all this. There's no magic pill. I mean, a lot of it's kind of embracing that grind.
Yeah.
You know, and that took me many, many, many years to not just want to push through and get to the success part of it, to where I'm headed, but to really enjoy that grind.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think jiu-jitsu taught me that.
Definitely.
It's like, okay, it's a 10-year plan.
Right.
You know, I better learn to embrace the grind, because it's going to be a
Sure.
long time. So I think that's helped me in life a lot.
Yeah. And you're going to get tapped out brutally over and over for many years in jiu-jitsu. And so when something like this happens, you know, it's just another submission. You just got to slap hands and go again, you know. Like,
It's a rod triangle you never wake up from for a while, you
yeah,
know?
exactly.
Yeah.
How about you, Katie?
Well, like I said, this is something I've really been thinking about the past few days, and I appreciate what both of you shared. And it's so funny to me because, you know, it's been this last year. Like I wrote a book, and to be honest, there's so many things in there that chapters that I go back and reread for myself at different times, because I need to be reminded of that message. And the introduction to the book, I actually talk about, you know, in my experience, you know, there's been many times in my life where I have looked for that quick fix or that magic pill, or, you know, just, you know, thinking like, oh, if I could just learn the right thing, then everything will fall into place and I'll be successful. And, you know, what I've learned is that there's these stages that we have to go through, you know, from survival to stability to success to significance. And in my life, you know, I think other people can relate to this, is that when I was in survival, I wanted to jump straight to success, or even jump straight up to significance, you know, like, you know, I want to matter. I want to do something big with my life. I want to, you know, make it, whatever, not realizing that you can't skip the different levels. You know, you have to move to stability. And what I found for me was that to build stability in my life took years. And I'm thankful that, you know, I feel like I am grounded in stability now. But it took about 1.5 to 2 years of being persistent and consistent with the choices that I made every single day. And so what I've been thinking about of, you know, how do I get grounded in the midst of such uncertainty? I do want that quick fix. And, you know, to be honest, like working out and jiu-jitsu, in a way, it gives that to me because it quiets my mind right away. Mm-hmm. And it quiets my thoughts. It helps me feel more in control. I feel better. I know I can trust that, like, when I go in and get a good workout, like, I'm not only helping my mind, I'm helping my body as well. On a spiritual level, what I've been coming back to is really asking myself, like, what are my beliefs? And do I really believe that and trust that God is at work right now and that God is working all things together for good? Mm-hmm. And when I have fear come up from the uncertainty, it's been a check for me to realize, like, no, I'm not believing that right now. You know, I feel like God's withholding something. You know, I also feel like I'm in a period of waiting right now. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of things in my life that I've accomplished and that I'm very proud of, and I am really happy with where I'm at in life. And there's also things that I haven't achieved yet, that I haven't reached yet. And part of that, to be honest, is really frustrating because I am such a go-getter that it's like, okay, here's my goal. Here's what I'm going to do to reach it. And I'm going to go after that until I get it. And life doesn't always work like that. You know, there's some things I've been working towards for years now that I feel like I'm close, but I'm still waiting for. Mm-hmm. And I bring that up because there's uncertainty with that, and that's outside of, you know, the virus that's going around. And so for me, just having that time of checking in and realizing that when I'm getting this picture right now of like a balloon that's on a string. A kite maybe would be a better analogy, and it just kind of gets a little bit farther and farther and farther away. It's still connected, but it's getting way out there, and you know, sometimes you want to reel that back in. And so when I feel like I need to kind of get reeled back in, it's reminding myself of, you know, I do trust that even in the waiting and the things that I don't know and I can't see and I don't understand, when I don't have all the pieces, that God is still working and there's still good that's happening. And I think back to other times in my life that were really, really hard and really challenging, just gut-wrenching, you know? And I look back at those and it's like, now, being years out of that, I wouldn't go back and change that because of what I learned through it and because of where I am today and who it made me into. So that gives me peace. But it's such a day-to-day, sometimes moment-by-moment reminder that, you know, I just have to have grace with myself too and do that little bit of check-in and realize, like, okay, I'm kind of anxious right now. What's going through my head and what can I believe about this situation instead? Mm-hmm. Whether that's finding something to be grateful for, or even most recently, just realizing for myself, I don't have all the pieces to this puzzle and I don't know what the end picture is going to be, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. And as trivial as I feel like that sounds, it's huge for me because I want to know the end result. I want to know where I'm going and what's going to happen and, you know, have that level of certainty. And sometimes we just don't. Right. And it's being okay with that unknown. And again, just trusting that in something bigger, that for me, and both of you have used this too, you know, that's God, and that, you know, God is over it and does have a plan, and it is unfolding even when we can't see all of the pieces or understand why. So that's, I would say that's how I'm getting grounded. Before all of that came out, I didn't feel like I was doing a very good job of it sometimes, but you know, it's like you guys both said, I don't think there's really an easy fix or an answer that is kind of a blanket statement that necessarily works for everyone.
For sure.
Even though there's a lot of commonalities in what we've shared.
Yeah, for sure. I think for the most part, it's just managing stress, managing fear. You know, people are afraid of a lot of things in life, and it's you know, I think no matter what the circumstance, whatever you call the invisible monster or the enemy, like, you know, like the devil has many faces. I said in my post the other day, like,
for sure,
if you know, if you're prone to fear, or if there's something that you are, if you're not conditioned to fear, those are, you know, you're primed to have a hard time with this situation. And then the more accustomed you are to dealing with your fears, then the quicker you are to deal with the uncertainty, you know. And it's not easy. We're all kind of figuring this out,
right?
You know, we've never experienced this before, but
well, and Anthony, like you were saying, that made me think of, again, coming to jiu-jitsu, you know, one of the reasons why I compete, why I choose to continue competing, is like my underlying why is to prove to myself that I'm stronger than my fears. And one of my big motivating factors in life as a whole is, you know, I don't want to wake up in 60 years, 70 years and wonder, what if I had tried that? What if I had done that? And so that's where that, you know, I want to prove to myself that I'm stronger than my fears comes in, because I don't want fear to hold me back, you know?
For sure.
And that's something that I've been thinking about the past few days too, as I've stepped out of my comfort zone in a few different situations. And I see like this different life unfolding before me in just these minor moments, because I'm choosing to step out when I'm afraid, and I'm being the person that I want to be in the future. And it's fun because it's like, okay, I did that. I'm like super freaked out right now, but it's okay. Like, regardless of what happens, I'm being true to myself, and I'm not going to wake up in 60 years and wonder, what if, you know, what if I had sent that text? What if I had made that call? What if I had just asked about this job, or, you know, fill in the blank? And what I'm finding is like, when my anxious mind takes over, right, my thoughts are just cycling like crazy, and I'm running through all these different scenarios, and okay, well, what if I do send that text and then they say this and then I say this, and it's like down this rabbit hole, but it's not real. And that's what's been hitting me this last week, is like, when I create these scenarios in my head, I get a little bit of an emotional hit from it, but it's not real life.
Right.
It hasn't happened. So it's like, I'm getting this fake emotion that doesn't go very deep, because it's all in my head. And so as I've been thinking about that, that's kind of what's pushed me to, you know, reach out and make the phone call about, you know, an opportunity, or to send the text to someone that, you know, I'm like, oh, I don't know. And what I find is, it's like, is it nerve-wracking? Yes. Oh my gosh, it's way more nerve-wracking than if I just kept this scenario in my head. But it's like, every time I step out and do it, I'm learning. And I have the conversation, and like, guess what? Maybe the phone conversation, this first one, didn't go how I wanted it to, but I learned for the next one. And I have another tool in my belt for, okay, when someone says no to a training, how can I redirect the conversation and do better at listening to what they might actually need, you know? And then the second conversation, it goes well, and I set up a meeting, you know? And it's just like, and then I'm in the meeting later, and I'm like, man, if I had only kept this scenario in my head for the fear of like what would happen and like not actually doing it, I would never have known, and I wouldn't be in this spot right now. And that emotion, even though it's so much stronger, like the intensity of the nerves, the real life, what I'm finding is way better than the scenario that I create in my head.
For sure.
And that's, I guess, been another big lesson for me lately that I've been learning, and like how I'm pushing through the fears that I have.
Yeah, that's really good.
Very nice. Yeah. 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 I know tomorrow I would have been at Pan's.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
You
my
know?
gosh, tomorrow already.
Yeah.
I would have been traveling to Guatemala.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine. Like, I'm not packed at all.
Yeah, that's crazy.
right.
Okay, but Pans.
Yeah.
You keep going.
No, but it kind of relates back to you about kind of embracing that fear. You know what I mean? And I get that anxiety before you compete. And I keep wondering. I just keep doing it because I think that the more I do it, I'm probably going to feel less of that.
Right.
You know? I mean,
Does that happen?
No,
'Cause
hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Keep waiting. But then too, I wonder, would it be as good if that fear went away?
Right, if you didn't have that.
You know what I mean? So I think that's so valuable in forcing your perspective. That's kind of what you're describing too,
Right.
man. You can process that. And I mean, you go through all those scenarios and you don't want to, go out there and it not work out for you and everything. And
For sure.
it is a mind game. It is
Yeah.
a mind game. Just processing the things in life.
Right.
Right. It's that fear and the devil where it has lots of faces, but we create doors for that devil, I believe, and
For sure.
Or a couch.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
invite it to stay.
Definitely.
drinks.
It's a pull-out couch that, please take a nap. Stay
Yeah.
a few days.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, we
Or
do
years.
that, and we get in that mode, and it's comforting because
sure.
what's in our head we have some control
Yeah.
over. That's
Yeah.
where we think we have a lot
Yeah.
of control. Yeah.
Well, it even reminds me of what you were talking about in the very beginning, Anthony, of this being a movie, and one of the women that I really look up to and love, her name's Kelly Sullivan Walden. She does a lot of dream work, and what she talks about is that essentially, like, and this goes back to the Toltecs as well, like the Toltec wisdom, but it's essentially that, life is a dream and we are in control of whether it's a dream or a nightmare. And if it is a nightmare, then all we have to do is change the meaning of what's happening and face that. And like I said, change it to create this dream state and essentially experience heaven here on earth rather than living in hell. And, that just comes back to, again, our mindset and how we choose to view any of the circumstances that come in our life, because we can't control that at all. But we can control how we show up and how we respond to it. And I would add how we treat other people in the midst of it.
Yeah, I think things could get a whole lot worse and I could still find some joy in living, because like to live is a great gift. And the more you feel grateful for life itself, the more you realize how much we really have.
Right.
If I was an injured slug, I think life would still be good. It's like we're really lucky to have lived in so much abundance in our life, to never have known, calamity and chaos like people in other countries or people in other times. So if this is our first taste of like, certain uncertainty, then we're pretty lucky,
Yeah, and it's like I look at it, okay, so Kevin, you'd be doing Pans tomorrow in another universe. But it's going to be rescheduled. My trip to Guatemala is already rescheduled. And, I'm so thankful that it was super easy to change my flights. I got a refund for the Airbnb that I had. And it was those moments that I truly did. I paused and just expressed gratitude and let that flow through me for, getting an extra $200 back this month. like, thank you for that gift. And how easy it was. And there are always those moments that we can stop and be grateful when our world shifts, for sure. You know, it makes me think, going back to like competing and the fear and all of that, it's like growth happens at like the temporary surrender of security. I think
I
is
like
how the
that.
quote goes.
That's deep.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's deep, Katie.
Whew, thanks. I can't take credit for it. My graduate program advisor always told us that.
Say that again. Say it again.
So growth happens at the temporary surrender of security. You know, and there's a lot of security that we're all surrendering right now. And if we choose to look at it from that perspective, there's a lot of growth that can happen right now too. And that's what I'm seeing in my life when I've made that distinction between the reality I'm creating in my head and realizing that, like, yes, that's giving me certain emotions, to transferring that to, I'm not going to live in this virtual reality. I'm going to create the life that I want and be in control and be in cause rather than living in the effect. You know, and talking about competing, a great example for me is looking back at when I competed at No-Gi Worlds back in December. So it was my first tournament as a blue belt, my first tournament doing no-gi ever. So what do? I go do Worlds. Oh my gosh. I like really felt like I had prepared for my mindset, you know, like I was really focused on that too, in addition to training. Oh my goodness, like stepping out on those mats, I just froze.
Really?
Like
The adrenaline, huh?
Oh my gosh, I had not had that experience in a tournament yet, where I just felt like I was going in slow motion, and I could hear Tom yelling at me, and literally what was happening, I can remember I was laying on my back and I was, you know, I had my hooks in, whatever, and I could hear him yelling at me, and I was thinking, is that Tom? I thought he wasn't going to be here today. What is he doing here? Oh, wait, what is he telling me? Oh, he's telling me something. Oh my gosh, it was long gone by that point. Like,
that's hilarious.
What is happening? And so anyways, I got bronze, which was cool. Like, I still medaled, you know.
Cool. Yeah.
3 out of 3. That's okay. But what I will say is when I got out there, before I stepped on the mat, my win was proving to myself that I was stronger than my fears. That's where that came from, was No-Gi Worlds. And so when I stepped out on that mat, it was like, okay, I've already won. Regardless of the outcome of these 2 matches, I have already won because I'm here. And even up to that second match, I could have left, you know, but I didn't. So I had that win, okay? Now, if I hadn't competed at Worlds, you know, I would have still shown up to train. I might have thought, like, you know, I probably would have done pretty good. Like, I've been training pretty hard, but nothing can compare to actually getting out there and doing it, because what it did after I lost was, you know, we were driving back home, and it just started going through my mind. It was like, okay, at what point did I lose? Like, where was that in the match? You know, not a specific move, but like mindset wise. And I realized I was super intimidated that the girls were bigger than me, even though we were the same weight class. They were like, I don't want to say in better shape, because I feel like I'm in pretty good shape, but I perceived like they muscle wise, like they were stronger, and they were taller than me. And I just realized, like, I got intimidated by that, because that's not something that I'm used to. And so that changed to my goal going back to the training room was, I am now going to roll with people who are bigger and stronger and better than me. So that way I'm not intimidated when I get out there, because there's no reason why I can't hang with them. I train with the guys all the time.
Right.
And so I came back to the mats with that goal. And there was probably about 6 or 7 of the guys that I had identified with my coach that like I felt safe with, I felt comfortable with, who are bigger and stronger and better than me. And I told them, hey, this was my experience at No-Gi Worlds. This is my goal. I want you to go hard with me. Like, regardless of what I say, like, I need you to hold me to this. And they said, okay. And it's so funny because one of the guys, even still, like, we kind of joke about it and we'll start around and it's like, he's got like 30 pounds on me and super strong. And I'm like, hey, I'm not really feeling it today. Like, I'm just kind of tired. Let's go easy. And he laughs. He's like, huh, okay. But we don't. Like,
yeah, that's hilarious.
And at the end of the round, every time he'll be like, hey, did you like how I went easy on you? I'm like, shut up. No, you didn't. He's like, you know what? But that's what you said. And like, I'm here to, I'm going to hold you to that because you told me. I'm like, I know. That's why I told you. So you would. So anyways, I share that because if I hadn't gone to No-Gi Worlds, then I wouldn't have been uncomfortable in that position and it wouldn't have pushed me to grow when I came back because I wouldn't have singled out some of the guys to say, hey, I need you to go hard with me because this is an area that I want to grow in. And trust me, it is definitely a temporary surrender of security.
For sure.
Because it's tough, but they hold me to it. And I know I've gotten a lot better. I mean, the tournament that I did a month later, I did way better than, granted it was also in the gi, but still mindset wise, I did way better than at No-Gi Worlds. And so, I think it's good for us to put ourselves in uncomfortable positions and look at what am I afraid of and see how can I grow from this? Where can I surrender some security in order to come out of this on the other side better?
Definitely.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that's something all three of us have. I did the Master Worlds when I just got my purple belt a month before, and it was like terrifying. I was like, I even asked Tom, I don't want to disgrace the school.
Right.
That elite means something to me, and of course Tom, 3-word answer, yes, go for it.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Okay. Woof.
Oh, yeah.
And then Anthony, when I heard you were getting in the cage for your go ahead.
And that guy was a purple belt.
Yeah.
And I that was already probably near 7-8 months ago, and so like after that, like I went an entire 9-minute match with this guy.
Wow.
And I really had not competed hardly at all before that. So after, like, that was such a surreal experience, and having survived it, like, I didn't know what to think. Like, I had not done any blue belt tournaments, but yet I was in a super match against a purple belt for forever. And so like the BJJ math in my head, like I just haven't been able to do it at blue belt because I just don't know what that means, and then I did a tournament just recently and lost the first match right away, and so the math that you do in your head about how good am I, it just doesn't really work because sometimes you're better than you really are, and sometimes and oftentimes you're not as good as you really are, so and right now, ever since my tournament, I've just been working on like side control escape and like even north-south escape specifically, and like you feel really crappy when you're just doing that, because you're constantly getting submitted or you're unable to recover your guard. And so like the narrative that we have about our ability based on our perception of reality, like our paradigm can shift to a place where we believe we're capable of anything and very quickly shift to a place where we feel inadequate, and so in times like this, I think gratitude helps us remember who we really are and keep our paradigm strong up in the space of like, I can still accomplish things even though there's a lot of uncertainty.
Right. Well, and that makes me remember too that, the value of having a coach or someone that you're looking to kind of be that guide and that voice of reason. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but, one of my coaches told me, I was watching at one of the tournaments, and again, just kind of nonchalantly, she said, Katie, there's still a lot more within you. Like, you don't even realize. And I was like, really? Because I felt like I was pushing myself pretty hard. And she's like, yeah. Which, I mean, I can see that because, like, of course there's room to grow, but her seeing more in me was like this eye-opener of, I want to reach my potential. I want to keep pushing and, like, I don't want these doubts that I have about myself and my ability to get in the way of what I could accomplish. And, so whatever that looks like, I think it's important to have anyone in your life who's speaking truth, to kind of be that person that can reel you in too, at least for me, when I get kind of down the deep end or way off in space, to bring me back and remind me of the things that are good and the things that are worth focusing on and are worth going after and are worth investing in, whatever that voice may be. I mean, I think it can take many forms. It for sure, it can be God, and it can also be like a mentor or coach or friend. So I think that's super important. And I think I definitely noticed a change in my mood, like, of us getting together just to have that camaraderie back again.
For sure.
We're not in this alone. Like, even if we're sequestered in our house by ourselves, like, we have to remember, we aren't in this alone. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. Even as crazy as my schedule's been this week, it was like I was determined to make today happen.
Yes, you were.
I was determined. Like, no, I'll be there. We'll make it.
Yeah. I mean, even me, I'm like checking in, like, oh, you guys sure? Like, should we do this? And Kevin, you're like, no, we're doing it. I'm like, okay, I'm bringing the hand sanitizer.
That's right.
For sure.
But, back to Anthony, and, I had a lot of respect for you prior to, but, I mean, you had a world-class corner.
Yeah, I really did, man. Like, my confidence level would not have gotten me there or gotten me through it. But I had my coach Isaac he's made me so good at jiu-jitsu and made me given me so much self-confidence. And then Manny, my training partner, wins all the time, smashes everybody, unstoppable. And so to have those guys with me that whole day, it was surreal. I felt like I really felt this extra level of, like, confidence and having my brothers with me who I know go to war, and who are ready to go to war. Even though I was timid, having those, looking behind me and seeing those guys throughout the night and getting ready for the match, and, like, you can't afford fear because your big brothers are there, basically, and you've seen them go to war so many times. So, like, and even walking out to the cage and the lights and everything, just feeling them right behind me, like, that feeling, that was worth so much to me in the cage, Like, I did not conjure that confidence myself, that courage came from having tough dudes behind me, who I train with every day.
Right.
Well, and that's the power of community.
Definitely.
Yeah. And if things would have went crazy there and people got out of hand, you had a lot of good backup.
Yeah, for sure. It's awesome what those guys, having a team like that, has done for me. And it goes back to, like, us, like, the situation today, like, us hanging out, we're each, working on our empires and still trying to navigate our lives as in this time of uncertainty.
Right.
And doing that alone, you don't realize how much the external environment is wearing down on you. And coming together with you guys, knowing that you're doing the same thing out there, still being proactive, still persevering, it's definitely encouraging.
Yeah. I think another big thing for me is taking a step back and realizing that the timeline that I have for myself isn't an end-all be-all. And I've definitely felt that the last few years. Like I said, there's goals that I have that I haven't achieved yet, and some that I feel like are close. And then I'm like, okay, well, I felt it's close for like 4 years. So,
right. Yeah.
But that's where that deeper sense of faith comes in, of that, just realizing, like, you know, if my life had gone as I had planned it 10 years ago, I fully believe that I would not be happy right now. Just the things that I thought that I wanted, the things that I used to work towards, the things that I thought would make me happy, they didn't. And, you know, I didn't get everything that I wanted. And now I'm thankful for that because I've chosen to learn through each of those circumstances. And, you know, I can sit here and say, like, yeah, I still have goals that I'm going after, and I'm really happy with my life right now. And, you know, when things are supposed to happen and come into play, they will. And I also see that the times that I have allowed things to unfold and not just like been super headstrong and pushed through, or maybe I have been super headstrong and pushed through, but like I didn't make it through the brick wall. Haven't noticed where the door is yet. Like it's better that I waited, you know? And some people say like, oh, well, Katie, it would have been good if, you know, you would have taken a jump earlier. Like you would have had different opportunities. And that's true. But the fact is, like, I'm still happy with where my life is. So, like, how can I be upset when I can see all the good that even the difficult situations have brought?
For sure. And
so, to me, that's a big thing in my mindset when I get discouraged is, like, remembering, you know, no, I'm happy with the lessons that I've learned. And I'm still learning. So, they haven't been failures, you know? It's just, I know a lot of ways not to do things.
For sure, yeah.
That's valuable. Yeah. Very valuable.
It is.
Oh, man.
Life is long, you know, and you don't want to get it. You don't want to get it over with too soon. You're gonna not have anything to do for the last half of it.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine not having anything to do.
Yeah,
for sure.
Actually, I do love those days. You know, I feel like one of the things I'm learning about myself is I have two speeds. I'm like 0 or 100. Okay, so I am like all in 100%. You know, and then I just go home and I really need to take a nap, and like I don't get out of bed for maybe a day, maybe 2. It just depends on the weekend.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? I'm like super productive in the other times. So, you know, let me sleep for a while, and then maybe one day I will learn how to balance my life better. It's a journey, right, guys?
How about you, Kev? Do you think you're going to be able to relax more now that there's a quarantine type of lifestyle expected of us?
No.
No. What are you going to do? If you have to work less, or if there's less work for you to do.
You know, I'm concerned about people's safety, my family, people I work with. That's just the mode I go into when I'm kind of getting a situation that could be threatening. Not just from the virus, but to me, you know, lockdown means opportunities for gangbangers and bad guys. You know, they sit around and look for that. And they probably have some of the best organizational structure. And there's no disgruntled employees in a gang. You realize that, right?
Right. Right.
You know, getting fired from that
No
is a
unions.
whole different meaning.
Yeah.
You know? So that worries me. You know, I've communicated with my boys about some alternative meeting places up in Sacramento. They're both in Sacramento. So I kind of, you know, good or bad, I've always had the ability to play scenarios out.
Right.
And I think we touched on it before, where I kind of look at this 360 view, and I'll play out multiple scenarios, and how would I deal with those, so that I'm prepared. It makes me feel a little bit more secure because I feel like I'm prepared. That's kind of how I think you were talking about sometimes how you'll go through this mind game in your head. I knew I couldn't stop that mind game, but I turned it into something more productive in my head.
Right.
You know, and learning those scenarios. And once I get it, I compartmentalize it. move on to the next one. And then if I meet that scenario, it's kind of like you've drilled it.
Right.
So you're going to be more prepared for it.
Right.
You know, so where that goes, I don't know. It's different for work to dry up in an area because I can typically retool and reshift myself. But when they dry up all the work in all the areas, it's a different challenge. So that's something I'm thinking through. How am I going to embrace that? And then how long is this going to go? And then what am I going to do next step type thing? So a lot of uncertainty. I'm less anxious about it than I would have been 10 years ago. And I attribute a lot of that to jiu-jitsu, you know, so because obviously I've lived life for a while and been through lots of scenarios and know myself pretty well, but handling adversity, I mean, that's where I wish somehow, and maybe this will help, talking like we're talking about it, is to get more of our dojo brothers and sisters to compete. You know, even locally, just compete because of what you get back. And we get lots of value. I mean, you don't ever have to compete, and you can get so much out of jiu-jitsu training and all that. You know, you guys know that. So, but there's a whole nother door that opens with facing those fears, doing it. And, you know, I hear some guys in the dojo, hey, are you going to compete? And they'll say, what's wrong? You scared?
Right.
Just flat out. Yeah. You scared?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, man, we're all kind of scared. You know? But I wish more people could experience that.
Definitely.
I know at Master Worlds there, I do not know, and I've thrown no-hitters. I've, you know, played sports very well. But I've never felt anything like I felt after getting that silver medal. I wore that medal on the plane. I went all the way home. I was like, the next day, I was like, man, why's my neck so sore? I was like, damn medal I carried all the way home from Las Vegas.
That's it.
You know, the feeling I got and the love that came back from the brothers and sisters from the dojo, it hits me right now.
Wow, yeah.
Now I'm chasing it.
Yeah.
I want that again.
Right.
I wonder what Josh feels like.
Yeah, right.
You know, but I want that again. I want that for other people because it really was something that, you know what? If it all ended tomorrow, I'm okay.
Right.
You know? So, and that there's not very many things in my life that I can like experience and say, you know what? If this is it, I'm okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's leaving everything out there too. You know, we put in so much work, training and preparing, and you get there and you show up and you still choose to compete. Because, I mean, again, even up until the moment that you step out on the mat, like, there's so many things in my experience that, you know, I can choose to let hold me back. Even in the midst of the match, you know? I know the times that I've lost, I literally have had a thought right before I lost, like, oh, I can't do this anymore. Oh, I'm so tired. You know, and that shows me, like, how powerful my mind is because that little switch is what made me lose the match. I know, because I stopped fighting. And, you know, but there's still, even in those moments, like, there's still a pride in that for getting out and doing my best. And, you know, even with that, there's, you know, something that I learned to take back to do better next time. And I agree, you know, there's not really a feeling like it that I've ever experienced, especially when you win.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's like I go back to the movie thing. Like, it's like if you don't compete, and I'm not a competitive person at all. You know, like even now, having done a few, I still would rather just do a couple a year rather than doing them all the time. You know, but there's no other way to simulate that, like that opportunity to. It's like an opportunity for you to have this epic challenge in your life that you'll remember for the rest of your life, and that will give your life some substance and when people reread it
Mm-hmm.
after you've gone, you know, it's like it puts your life on a more epic proportion.
Right.
You know, it's like it's like reading when people read an ancient story of your life, it's a lot more epic if you've done some jiu-jitsu competitions rather
Yeah.
than if you didn't, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, the other thing that I like about it is it exposes things inside of me that I can't hide from. Like, for example, you know, when I have that thought cross my head of, oh, I'm so tired, and then I lose. Like, that is exposing a chink in my armor,
Mhm.
for lack of a better word. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
exposing a weakness that, okay, here's something that I would like to work on to strengthen my mindset. You know, how do I, you know, be 4 minutes into a match and feel super tired and not let that thought even come through
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, mess me up.
Yeah.
Like, there's a break right there. So that's an area I need to strengthen. And I think there's very few things in our life that really expose those deeper parts
Mhm.
of ourselves.
Yeah.
I think when we don't challenge ourselves, it's easy to live in, like I was saying, a virtual reality of who I think I am. And if I never test my limits to see what I'm made of, how do I know that, you know, I really will practice what I preach?
Mhm.
To bring it back to what we were talking about in the very beginning. You know, if we never go through adversity, then, like, how do we really know how strong our beliefs are and how strong our character is and the things that really matter, unless we put ourselves in positions to expose that?
Mhm.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know, and to say that you're tired 4 minutes into a match it's mind blowing, because we do 5-minute matches, one after another, minute in between, and
Right.
we grind through that. But that adrenaline dump
Mm-hmm.
and that mental aspect of it,
Mhm.
you can't reproduce that.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the part that I challenge with, like, I've got all this. I mean, I usually can push through practically anything. And for me to hit that wall, I felt that wall too. That, man, I was like, man, where's it at?
Yeah.
Where's my
Yeah.
superhero strength at?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all gone, and it scares you, you know, and then that's where you need
Right.
to be more technique oriented and not rely on all those things. But at the same time, I never can reproduce that. I could do back-to-back classes. I could do 12 rounds in an afternoon type thing, and nothing will get me to where that gets me to in the first couple of minutes. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
And we fear that so much, hearing that's the scared voice, you know, hearing the weak part of ourselves, that we avoid that feeling at all costs, you know. But
Right.
every time we do bring that out in ourselves, like, we kill that version of ourselves because we hate it so much. So it's good to put yourself in that place,
Yeah.
because you hear that little baby version of you, and you can't draw it out any other way. And then once you do, it's dead. You can say, that's not me, I'm moving on from this. But until you put yourself in opportunities to fail, you are carrying around this body that you're overgrowing, and it's just getting harder and harder to carry around. You know, you're living in a delusion, and
Right.
by exposing yourself to risk and challenge, you're able to shed those delusions and embrace reality, which is usually a lot more empowering. You know?
Right. Well, and I would add to that, and Anthony, I would guess that this is in your book too, is that why that's important is because we can't choose the person that we want to be until we know what's already in there.
Mhm.
You know, I can't choose to, you know, be stronger, or that's a bad example, but, like, you know, in that moment of feeling like, oh, I'm tired, okay, like, until that's exposed, I don't know that that's an area that I need to strengthen.
Mhm.
And it's after that happens, I could say, you know, oh, well, I was tired because of X, Y, and Z, or, oh, she was better than me, whatever. I could have whatever excuses for why I lost. Or I could look at it and say, you know, here's what I'm going to learn for next time. And I want to be a stronger competitor. I want to be a stronger person. So now I see a weakness, and what path am I going to choose to move forward? Am I going to choose not to compete because I get tired? Like, that could be an option. It's not. That's not what I'm going to do.
Right.
You know, but I have that choice. And just like you said, we can't know what's under there, what our self-limiting beliefs are, or our limiting beliefs, until we put ourselves into a place of adversity.
Yeah.
And then we get to choose who we want to be. And I think that's really the beauty of facing adversity, what it comes down to.
In anything.
That is it. Yeah.
Right.
That is it. And like, even though I haven't won in like my tournaments or my competitions, like, it's about that feeling of hearing that voice. There's no other way to get it. And so when I prepare for a match, or when I take a match, I'm so excited to be in the cage or on the mat, because I'm going to get to hear my subconscious voice at that level that I can't get to even in my deepest meditation, you know, and I want to hear it. And in my last tournament, I was empowered. And so that was a unique experience where, like, I didn't go in feeling afraid, and my subconscious voice gave me a totally different experience. And so the reason why I want to compete is not because I'm the winningest competitor. It's because I love that feeling that I get when I'm in there, of it's just me and my subconscious voice in its loudest, you know.
Right.
And like you said, Kevin, when you're in the gym, your ego is good, your body feels great, you're confident. Even when you're losing, it doesn't feel bad. But when you're in there, you don't have that. Your ego's checked out, and you're now having to do the same moves with the gut feeling of fear that you're not used to. And so that's it. It's not so much about you're going in there to pump up your ego because you're the winningest person. It's you're going in there to hear your voice for the first time, you know, really.
Yeah, and like you said, Anthony, when we're in our comfort zones, and maybe that's just in the gym, like regular training session, you know, there's people that I can go with that, you know, are in my comfort zone. And there's people in there that I get kind of an adrenaline, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, but we can't hear that voice in our comfort zone. We have to put ourselves into a place of adversity in order to grow. And, you know, again, coming back to that quote that, you know, growth happens at that temporary surrender of security. We have to surrender our security in order to see what we're made of and decide, you know, am I happy with what's left, or, you know, am I not? And then what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, always. And it's usually a couple weeks out. I'm like, you know, I'm starting to get a little that fear. It's like, you don't have no gun, you don't have no knife.
Right.
You know, there's a guy there, he's going to stop it. But then you read the fine print on the, can cause injury or death. You
I
know?
never read the fine print.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
And then you're, I mean, at any of the big tournaments, man, there's medics coming on. There's stuff.
For sure.
I mean, there's things snapping.
People are getting injured left and right.
Yeah. And you're like, so then it comes back into reality a little bit. Like, well, this is kind of a serious thing, you know. And then, you know, it's hard sometimes. And that's what jiu-jitsu's really taught me too, is normally I would just face that with just pure aggression. But you know how it is. If you go pure aggression, you're going to get sucked right into something.
Right.
You know? You're going to play right into somebody. So you have to learn to really temper that. And it's weird too when you start off, you know, if you're going easy, the other person's going a little easier, and then you wait for somebody to snap and go, you know, type thing. But there's nothing like that. I mean, you're exactly right. You don't get in touch with that subconscious self. I just don't know if I've ever, experienced that in any other moment. You know, so
yeah, even in the most extreme things that I've done, like I've never, that feeling of like you're about to get in a fight. You know, that there's no other feeling like it, basically. You know, and that's the feeling you get. It's not like a real fight, but it feels the same feeling in your stomach, like, oh, I have to fight right now, you know, and that anxiety a little bit that you get, you know, and there's no other way to get it, and it's a safer way to get it than a real fight,
right?
You know,
well, I would hesitate to say there's no other way to get it, because, I mean, I'm trying to think through, like, I've had experiences that have been incredibly painful, like either relationally or, on some of like the soul journeys that I've gone on to, those aren't painful, but I'm just saying like really deep experiences where I have seen like a deeper side of me come out, or like fears exposed, or emotions come out that surprise me. I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that was in there. So I think that there are other ways to get to that subconscious level, but I would say that it's not easy. I don't think I'd consider it easy to get there. And I would say that because I believe we do have to be put in a place that's really uncomfortable for that stuff to come out.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like you make an appointment when you're on that mat at that time. That's when it's going to happen.
Yeah. And you're not prepared when you say yes. Usually, you still have to finish getting prepared. So that's there's an extra level of faith that comes from signing up for a competition.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Especially if you got to cut weight too.
Especially if you have to cut weight, you're having faith that you're gonna make the weight. That's insane.
Oh, I've learned my lesson with that.
Yeah,
we'll
no
see
more.
Because sometimes I repeat my mistakes.
Yeah.
So, what did I say earlier? I've learned a lot of ways to not do things. Oh yeah.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
I haven't thought about COVID-19 for a good 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I think it's been longer than 15 minutes.
At least.
Yeah. But what I love about this is that it's taking a different spin on it. To me, what I hear or what I am gathering from our conversation is that there is beauty in adversity if we choose to look for it. And regardless of, whatever the difficult situation is, we have an opportunity to choose how we show up and respond. And when there's fear and uncertainty, we each have a responsibility, if we choose to take it, to say, what is this showing me about myself? How am I choosing to show up? And if you like the way you're showing up, awesome. Keep at it.
Yeah.
And spread that, share that with people. And if you don't, then explore that. Why? And who do you want to be instead? And that's been a big question for me of, who do I want to become by the end of this year, by the end of next year? Because when I have that vision of who I want to be, then that changes how I show up. So even if it's not me today, it will be me by the end of the year, because I'm choosing to live that way now.
Right.
And we all have that opportunity in every situation. So, this is definitely a time of uncertainty. There's a lot of fear and unknown, and we get to choose how we show up and the beliefs that we have about the situation, including the spiritual beliefs we have as well. And there are ways to ground ourselves and come through it stronger than who we are today.
Well said.
That's my recap.
Yeah, that is it. That is it. We don't have a lot of outside connection besides jiu-jitsu. And so coming together from 3 different walks of life after having experienced the last 2 weeks of kind of upturn, it's cool that we can kind of tie on the parallels of jiu-jitsu and life, and
for sure.
It does bring that out. We're able to kind of touch on those things that we've all been thinking about, those parallels, in the last week or 2.
Right.
And hopefully this stuff dies down, but it's like I said, it's like the certainty thing. Living in times of uncertainty, we're really lucky for it to be such a rare occurrence.
Right.
It's people in other countries who are also going through this, are used to uncertainty. They experience it all the time. So people who live in the States, especially California, and really nice, weather and fair weather states, it's like, man, how much nicer could we have it?
Right.
Where finally, the worst thing is we have to stay inside, and some people we know are going to get sick.
Right.
Could be worse.
I also see it as we'll talk about homelessness in the future. We're going to talk about that sometime. And I really think, and when I look at these homeless people, we're all getting to experience what they experience every day. That uncertainty. What about our jobs? What about everything is uncertain?
Right.
They live that life every day. And so I'm hoping it brings people a little bit more closer with that and that awareness, because I think getting back to the basics, I mean, to me, life's about fundamental. I go back to my minor league, little league baseball coach and Tommy Wells. I'll never forget. He was just really, it was fundamentals, just do the fundamentals. I still do that in my life, that when things get chaotic, reorganize the desk.
Yeah.
Reorganize, get back to the fundamentals,
That's
So I'm hoping this resets people to really understand about trust and love and security and those types of things, because I think we were headed down a path, I think, socially. This is a sociological experiment to me. I get to watch this all and love it at the same time.
Right.
So I'm hoping this kind of jolts people, and you need that jolt often to get you realigned. I'm hoping that does that with society in a lot of ways, and the world.
Right.
Big stuff.
Yeah, big stuff. I hope so too.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for listening. Wash your hands. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Nobody coughed
Be
through
healthy.
the whole episode. That was impressive.
I know.
I was too self-conscious.
I know, right?
Just silently trying to suck it back down.
I drank that water a couple times.
Oh, yeah. But honestly, yeah.
We'll
Be
do it again.
positive.
We'll do it again. Yeah. Stay positive. Stay just full of hope, optimism. Remember to trend toward hope and faith over fear and worry, because it's your own welfare. It's up to you. You can worry all you want, but it's not going to help you.
Right. And I'm a firm believer that whatever we put out into this world, we get back. So just put out love and positivity and joy and faith and hope, and trust that that'll come back to you tenfold.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah.
You bet.
Follow us online. Follow Kevin, KRWCCO on Instagram, at P-Style on Instagram.
And at Legit Katie Williamson.
That's it. Get a hold of us, guys. Thank you so much.
You can find me on Instagram at Legit Katie Williamson, and online www.katiewilliamsoncoaching.com. And you can find Kevin Roland on Instagram
at KWRCCO, or my website, www.kwrcco.com.
You can find me at P-Style on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just look me up, Anthony Polanco, or anthonypolanco.com. Check it out. Got a ton of stuff on there for you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Life Off the Mat.
Thanks for listening to Life Off the Mat.
Thanks for listening to Life on the Mat.
Off the mat.
Off the mat.
Off the mat.
On and off the mat.
Thanks for listening to Life Off the Mat. We'll see you next time.